Hi, I'm Lisa Singer. I am the Senior Director of Event Programming at MediaPost, and this is Brand Insider BTS, where I get to pull back the curtain on some of the most influential women marketers today. And with me is MK Woltz. She is the Director of Media Connections at Danone. Hey, MK, welcome.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, I definitely, you came with Seth, who, as you know, I work with. And he
Yes.
was like raving about you and, just saying that you're so impressive. I need to talk with you. And so I am so glad that we were able to do this.
Yes, likewise.
Yeah, well, you know what? And I have to say, though, because I'm sure you watch the Oscars or at least have, seen what's going on. And Jamie Lee Curtis just won for the first time the supporting actress role. But before her Oscar-winning performance, she was a spokesperson for Activia, which is, so you kind of shared that Oscar with her, and it's actually a lot of people are bringing that up now because she was so known for that. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because she talked about it in an interview saying she started doing commercials so she could spend time, be home with her kids. And we're seeing that so much, especially even today, those life-work balance choices that people are making. So what I'm curious, I wanted to ask you, has there been that moment for you, maybe where you took a step back or did something different work-wise that might have maybe impacted your career, but for personal reasons, for life reasons, it worked best for you? Has you ever had to deal with anything like that?
Yeah, I'd say throughout my career, I had like a mentor at one point in time who said something to me that I carried through in this vein of work-life balance for a long time. And he said, work-life balance is not something that an employer just gives you. You have to figure out how to make that happen for yourself, right? It's like, and so I say that is because it's always in my mind of, okay, I have to manage my time differently based off of what is happening at work or at home, in life, et cetera. And I'd say a pivotal point for me personally, when I had to, reprioritize focusing at home versus the day-to-day grind and work was when I had my kids. My kids are now 10 and 6, but when I first had them, it was, yes, a life-changing event, but because they were so little and I got to take them to full-time daycare and they were open all year and from 7 to 6, and I could travel, because I would have, my parents come into town and help with the burden. So I still feel like when I had them, it was like, yes, my priorities changed because I was taking care of another human versus, millions of dollars of budgets for our advertising plans. But I'd say that honestly, when I started here at Danone, gosh, almost 5 years ago. And that was when my oldest child went into kindergarten. And that was like a really, really hard time because I didn't realize all the demands that being in real school had on parents. And it was also really challenging because I'd taken a new job. So I was like, my work-life balance priorities kind of flipped. And I felt like, I had to make a lot more sacrifices at home versus work. And I'd say it's a continual evolution and day-by-day choices that we're faced with. So it's probably a long-winded kind of roundabout answer. But for me, I feel like it's a continual evolution. And right now in my career, there's equal demands at home and at work. So I honestly take it day by day, week by week of like, for example, this morning, I was working on a big presentation that I have at the beginning of April. I got up at 5 a.m. I spent 2 hours just like heads down before I had to get my kids up because I know that like this afternoon at 3:30, I need to get my kids and take them to like sports. So it's that it's the daily prioritization of like what I know what I have to get done. So how do I make that happen? within what's in my kind of control, if you will.
Well, getting up at 5 and actually being, it's one thing to get up at 5 and actually be productive. That is, I totally give you hats off for that one. And it just makes me so much more grateful that you're taking the time with me today with everything that you're juggling. So I really appreciate that. But
Yeah.
it's funny what you mentioned though, like you're thinking when they were younger, it would have been harder and more, and I guess there's an adjustment because, you're becoming a new mom, you're used, that's an adjustment, but it makes sense. Like they weren't going off to, field hockey or, or whatever it is. Whereas now your kids' lives are probably almost as busy as your life and you have to be able to juggle that. So yeah, it definitely makes sense. But I love that you say it's an evolution, because really what you can commit to now, who's to say what it's going to be 6 months from now or whatever.
So true. Yeah. And, and then I think obviously the way we work today, when more of like a hybrid environment where, yes, I am in the office a few days a week and I'm at home a few days a week, but that's really also, I think that contributes to the, I'd say balance and evolution in a more productive way for me and my family. Cause I, like, said, I can get my work done, do what I need to do, but I can, go get my kids from school and take them to practice versus like before the pandemic, that would have been a lot harder.
Yeah. No, and it's funny. I mean, as much as there's back and forth about the hybrid or work from home, and some people are all for it, some want them back in the office, but really when you think about the time you saved, just traveling, to and from work, that time can be spent working, so then you can use that a little. What do you say to someone starting out though, that, because I think that younger people who are starting out with their careers, they are looking at the work-life balance more so maybe than we did even 10 years ago. And so I'm just curious, do you think it's now turned to the opposite side too much, like maybe the expectation is too much, or do you think that that's a smart way to go into it?
That I can't imagine being a person like fast forwarding to like if I was somebody just graduating college and going into the workforce where it's like limited in office interaction and things of that nature, it would be so strange. But to answer your question about like, is it about the work-life balance
be a little less, like when you're just when I was just starting out,
yeah,
I was ready to do anything they needed. You know what I mean? Like I'm there and I'm like, okay, you need me to work overnight. You need me to do this. And I felt like I needed to sort of pay my dues to get there. But I think that that's not necessarily the mentality today. Not from everyone, but I do think because work-life balance has become much more of a priority. So that's, I'm just curious, what would you advise that person? And let's just talk about getting into, wanting to be wanting to have your career. Like how would you guide them, I guess, as they're just starting out with that kind of attitude?
Yeah, I'd say the like eagerness and hunger to like learn and have an open kind of mind about, coming into a company, understanding the ins and outs. Yes, learning and growing, having a solid mentor who can also like help you. And I don't know as much, like, just because I started in ad agency world, which I feel like might be a little bit different than starting on the manufacturer side, but I still think there's, it's super important, yes, to come in and have that hunger and that kind of like, all right, what do I need to do to understand the business? How do I continue to grow? And I think that that's a personal journey. I don't think somebody hands you that. I feel like your career is under, is your path to write. And yes, there'll be opportunities that you want that you don't get, and, vice versa. But I think, it's like when I started, I was like, I got my job in MediaVest in New York through my dad, who works with my local TV station in Gulfport, Mississippi, connected me with a spot buyer. And so it's like, I had that hunger of like, I want to move to New York. I want to do this. I would like just find anybody that knew anyone who could connect me to the right person. And so I took that mentality. And when I started, I was like very shocked. I didn't know how to do a lot of the things that they were asking me to do, but I found people who would help me and teach me. And, you know, I would raise my hand for things that were outside of my day-to-day job. And I think that's critical as well. It's like, you know, and it kind of feeds into that whole sentiment of like the hunger and the wanting to learn and grow and be successful. And yeah, just using the help of others, and just, yeah, having that curiosity and kind of drive. I don't think that, you know, I think that's just inherent, sometimes in a lot of people to want to especially who enter the more corporate world, have that drive and want to succeed. So
Yeah. Well, and so going back to when you first started out, we know your drive was, okay, you want to get to New York, this is what you want to do. But when you were graduating, you know, and I think by what you said, testing different things, putting your, you know, jumping into things you hadn't done, but those experiences then help to bring you to where you are and maybe figure out where you want to go. What were you thinking when you first graduated? Was this your plan? Like, what were you wanting? And then how did that evolve from, as you said, starting at the agency side to now where you are at Danone?
Yeah, so I was very specific in what I wanted to do, like in advertising. So when I was in college, I majored in advertising, and I did these national student advertising competitions with my advertising, you know, school and program that we had at SMU. And so I knew, and I was on the media team. So we, you know, put these things together, put the media plans together. And I found that very interesting. And so I did that for 3 years and went and, you know, presented to, you know, the clients when we had these assignments. And I knew from my like sophomore year in college, I was like, okay, I want to move to New York. I want to be in advertising and I want to do media. And so I kind of like
Wow.
I said, I know I'm one of the few when if I think back to who I
In this
started
industry,
with,
you know, it's
so
in the
people
advertising
just
industry.
fall into it. Yeah, it's like, especially media planning and buying, people just kind of fall into it. And if I think back to like all of my peers that I had when I was that age, I was like I was probably one of two who like actually knew they wanted to do this versus just kind of choosing something marketing related. So anyway, so I knew I wanted to do that and knew that New York was like the Mecca to do that in. And so, I remember getting a phone call on my graduation day in May of, you know, long time ago, 20 years ago. And basically like they were like, oh, you have a job, can you be here next week? And I would like remember looking at my parents, they were in my room at the time, we were kind of packing things up from college, and I was like, can I be there in a week? They're like, yeah. I'm like, okay.
Wow.
So yeah, it was crazy. So anyway, but so I started there, and like I said, I was pretty, you know, like I guess maybe any kind of first job, pretty naive in terms of like what it entailed. Big culture shock too, moving from South to New York, and just kind of, you know, talk about scary, putting yourself in this place where you know no one and nothing, and trying to figure it all out. But I had so many great experiences when I first started working on Coca-Cola and Kraft and Johnson & Johnson in New York. So these big brands, spending a lot of money, really got to understand how, you know, media planning and buying works and advertising. I even got to work on pitches in my first few years. And then I felt like that experience really set the foundation for my career because of what I learned in such a short amount of time, the like basically like trust and you know, support that I was given from my you know, bosses and peers and clients, and even the sales community. And then I did work, so that was like media agency world, and then I worked at a small agency after I moved from New York back to Texas. And that was really pivotal because in the big agencies, I feel like you did one thing and you did it really well. And you go to a small agency and you do everything, like everything from billing to getting the proposals to putting them in the buy system, things that I had no idea about. So I feel like that was more entrepreneurial in spirit and great. And then I moved here to Denver after that, and had spent 10 years of my career at a full service agency called Integer. And that was great too, to work more closely with creatives and really develop my creative media kind of prowess. And then, fast forward to now, I wanted, and why I'm here at Danone is I wanted to continue to learn something different. So I can do media planning and buying in my sleep and strategy. Obviously it evolves and continues to evolve, and that makes it interesting. But those, principles and foundations are always there. And I wanted to learn something new. I wanted to have a different vantage point. And so that's why I went on a specific journey to find something that was internal at a manufacturer, at a, company where I could use my craft skills to then, in a different way, and provide that value internally, that guidance to our agencies and our brand teams. So that's why I'm here today. So
Yeah, no, I mean, and I think it's great that you continue to want to challenge in the sense that, you have to change things up to keep, maybe hopefully another 20 years or whatever. So it's like you always want to keep moving forward. You moved a lot. I'm curious, were those moves for the jobs, or were those moves because personal reasons you decided to move and then found the job? Like what brought you to each of the different locations?
Yeah, so after New York, New York was definitely a job, wanted to do that.
Yeah.
I moved back to Texas, and I say back to Texas because I went to college in Texas because of my personal life. My fiance, now husband, fiance at the time, now husband, was in the military, and that's where he was stationed. So I moved there, and then he got out of the military and got his first civilian job here in Denver, and that's why we're here. So it was kind of because of him, then I found another job in those locations. Yeah.
Well, and do you think, because as you said, being exposed to a lot of different, when you were at the smaller agency, and do you think that made you better in understanding the full picture because you were now, doing all these different things? So then even when you're not doing that anymore, you understand their needs, you understand what needs to be done. Do you think that made you more rounded and better as you are now?
Oh yeah, 100%. And and because I was the sole person at one point in time, that I had a couple people who eventually I added to my team there. But yeah, everybody relied on me for that. So I had to figure it out and had to do it, and got regular feedback on, all of the things. And I think that it really helped a ton, and helped kind of honestly like inspire a little bit of that, entrepreneurial spirit, if you will. And that I've kind of carried through, because even when I came to Denver, yes, it was a 500-person agency, but our media team was always around like 8 to 12 people. So you still were like building your own little business inside of a larger organization. So it definitely helped with that. And just having a different mindset too, of like, when I went to that small agency, I was, very valuable in their minds because of all the experience that I had gotten in New York, but I was doing such different things for them, right? On the local level, doing, I'd never put together a spot TV buy, but I was figuring out how to do it. So.
Awesome.
Yeah.
With all of that, has there been throughout your career maybe a challenge or something that really almost, felt like, okay, this is, I can't get through this, but you did. What was the biggest challenge, I suppose? And maybe it's a combination personal and professional, but something where it might have really stopped you, and then you had to figure out, okay, how can I get through this? What would be the greatest challenge like that you may have experienced?
I'd say there's probably a lot, but I'd say, and in different instances, right? I mean, there's things where you go through like, at agency world, like, I'd say expanding and contracting your team based on business and business needs that your client has, right? So I'd say that from a personnel standpoint was always super challenging. And then I'd say, honestly, like when I started working at Danone, it's one of the biggest challenges that I faced. And I joined right after Danone acquired White Wave Foods, and I was hired to basically start our internal media practice here in Denver, as White Wave historically didn't have a media connections team, right? And so with the acquisition of the two companies coming together, we needed to expand that practice from the New York yogurt side down to all the other brands and that we now we're a part of. So I was coming into a time and place where it was two companies coming together, lots of new people trying to figure out how to work together. I was new to the company and had obviously no idea what, I had to learn everything and learn everyone. And it was, my kid was starting kindergarten and I was commuting longer and and we were trying to buy a new house and all these things. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't think I'm ever going to survive this. And I didn't know, you're kind of like I was at a company that for 10 years before where it was like, okay, my warm fuzzy blanket was gone. My comfort wasn't there anymore. And that was really hard. And it took me a good 2 years until I felt like, okay, I've got this. Like I've got people in my corner. I've got people, I established and hired really great people. Like I understood what I was supposed to be doing with some of the work I was given. But there was nobody there who was really telling me exactly what to do. And, I've had some of that before, and I can, navigate ambiguity and kind of pave my own way. But it was very challenging and a pivotal point in my career where I think back about it. I'm like, okay, I was able to form relationships, help bridge gaps, kind of do things a little bit in my own way that then helped us become a stronger integrated team. So.
Yeah. And it must have been, obviously it was unsettling for you, but even compound that, when you bring two companies together, it's unsettling for everyone, because I'm sure some of them are wondering, am I going to have a job? Am I going to stay? You know what I mean? There's just uncertainty whenever something like that happens. So having that kind of atmosphere, it's new to you. It's not like you're part of Danone. So that must have been really, a struggle, but you just would just keep plowing through. That's just, you just had to do it.
Yeah, there were many, there were some tough days. There were some tears. What have I done? No, yeah.
And not from your kindergarten kid. From you. No, but then it gets you, when you look, like you said, when you look back now, it's like, okay, if I can get through that, then.
Exactly. And it's like, I always say, it's like, I'm never looking for greener grass. It's always different grass. Right. And so that's why it's goes back to, all right, it's not, I've never been miserable in anything that I'm doing in my career. It's just always wanting new experiences and to learn something new and different and connect with different people. And, now I know how yogurt is made. I never would have known that before.
There you go. Add that to your resume. You'll be. Well, I actually want to ask you about, okay, so I always do my little snooping and stuff. And I found that Danone's first TV spot was in 1960s. Okay. And it's in Spanish, which I don't speak. So the jingle, I'm going to say it, probably really crucified, but Quiero Danone, Dami Danone, which means want a Danone, give to me Danone. So it's cute, little black and white, black and gray, really characters. But I'm just curious. So thinking back when you were a kid, was there a favorite commercial that really stuck out to you, like maybe the jingle or the characters or something like that, that you know, can maybe even sing today, or which then I'll ask you to sing, of course.
Yeah, it's like there's so many, but I'm like, I don't know. Put me on the spot. I'm trying to think of one that like sticks out specifically. I mean, all of the like Coca-Cola commercials always stuck out to me. Like, I know there's not, you know, a big jingle that I can recite. But the polar bear that like is nostalgic and kind of, you know, throughout like Christmas, and maybe because I grew up in the South, there was always like a Coke versus Pepsi type of thing. So those stick out as just a, you know, iconic brand that has been, you know, carried throughout my whole life, if you will. And Frosted Lucky Charms, they're magically delicious. That pops into my head.
You have that, right? I mean, but the thing is, you don't really have those today. You know what I mean? Like the no jingles, obviously, and then even just that common. I mean, there are some that are like, you know, there's like Del Yay or something, whatever, like for Del Taco. Like there are ones that sort of you hear a lot, but I don't know. Like what do you think in that? Like that it's evolved to that? Like do you miss the jingles? Do you miss? I mean, not that. I mean, it's been a while since there's been jingles, so I'm not saying that, but you have that kind of nostalgia for those, and we're not creating that now, it seems.
Yeah, no, I think it's funny. My kids, this is probably bad because they watch too much TV, but they will start to, you know, play back like slogans or logos about Geico, about like, you know, whatever something or whatever they're watching, right? Doing a bad job reciting any more of them. But it's funny you mentioned that because yes, I think it's kind of a continued missed opportunity because it does stick in your mind so much. And when you see it again, you're reminded of that kind of, you know, association, if you will, for that brand and that music or that jingle or whatever it might be. But I say funny you mentioned that because from Silk, we have a song in our commercials that we created a couple of years ago. It's called Milk of the Land. And it's a riff off of a Daft Punk song. But if you look it up, it's like a quick, snappy, like, and people have started kind of singing it and doing riffs of it on social platforms. But it's, you know, it goes rise it, shine it, and it like and it's like Silk.
All right, we got it.
Yeah, Silk, Milk of the Land. So yeah, it's catchy, and so we feel like we've underutilized that part of our commercial.
Yep.
And so now we're kind of trying to figure out like how do we take that into, you know, more of the audio space and really maximize this song that we've created. So
you mentioned TikTok. I mean, that's the perfect example, that kind of exposure. So to have those kind of, you know, maybe not jingle, but whatever it is, that can then bring that to other places, or people will just get it stuck in their head. You know, like we just have avocados from Mexico and avocados from Mexico, whatever. And like everyone knows that phrase, that jingle. And so it's having those kind of, you know, whatever sayings, jingles, for lack of a better word, I think brings, you know, then can expand it to all the different channels and people keeping it in their head. But I do love when you say about that. I saw they actually had it on, it was on Access Hollywood maybe, or one of them, where they were interviewing David Beckham's son.
Yeah.
Doing the, like, because David Beckham did the Got Milk, I guess, you know, and they showed it to him, and then they showed the son who did with yours and did the same, you know, but he didn't quite have his dad's body. So he was like, but I love that. That's a great campaign. Like, I think like, but that's sort of taking that, like you're getting the younger generation, but you're also bringing in, you know, millennials, and you know what I mean? So it's just, it's really combining your audience, or expanding your audience, I should say.
Yes, and that's kind of the Silk Next Milk campaign around it's for the next generation of milk drinkers, right? It's the
Plant.
the dairy like plant-based kind of movement in milk. And so yeah, that campaign was awesome in terms of using the Nepo babies.
Yeah, no. Well, and
Yeah.
obviously bringing it to a healthier generation of plant-based. I mean, obviously that's such a big part. I'm curious for you. So Danone, which I'm not sure if you know the history, was invented in 1919 because he in Spain, Isaac Carasso, his son was having issues. So the culture from yogurt was to help him. So I'm curious, is there something that your go-to that's for you to be healthier? Like something that maybe you discovered, as you've gotten a little older and you trying to do different things, or maybe something you've always incorporated into your life, but that you feel makes you healthier?
Yes. So I have to move my body every day, no matter what. So either I'm getting up early to work or work out, depending on the day. So that just makes me feel like so much healthier. Like I can, kind of, and it's also a stress relief for me and like my time. So whether it be like, I do all types of exercise. So I don't kind of like today I did yoga, yesterday I ran, because I'm training for something. So it's like, it just depends, but that's like a must. And that's what makes me feel super healthy. And then water. I drink a lot of water.
Same.
Got my big jug right here.
Yeah.
So that, and then just like being like on the weekends, we do a ton of skiing together as a family. So just like being in Colorado, it's all about the outdoors and kind of taking advantage of all the things that we have here. So that always fills my cup too and makes me feel healthy outside of, just what I'm putting in my body. So yeah. And being around others, I'm an extrovert, so that fills my cup.
And I love that taking your kids and doing things as a family. I mean, you're instilling in them the same kind of active lifestyle that, as they say, they do as you do, not as you say, kind of thing. And so it must be really nice for your kids to be a part of that too.
Yes, it's fun. It's a lot of schlepping of all the stuff, but it's fun.
Especially skiing, I'm sure, but that's right there. I'm curious, you talked about what keeps you healthy. What's your guilty pleasure?
Oh, I do I like sweets. I like chocolate from a food standpoint. I do like, I also like going out and like going to nice dinners and eating and drinking. I love to sing. I don't know if that's a guilty pleasure, but something I like to do. like to karaoke.
That's what I was gonna say. Do you do karaoke? What's your go-to song?
Oh, I have a whole like sequence, but I usually start with the big 9 to 5, Dolly Parton. It's one of my faves. And then I kind of progress from there.
She has a new, I don't know if it's released or she's doing this whole duet thing with I think she's doing rock and roll because she was put in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yes.
Now she feels like she needs to actually do it, even though but she did not believe that. So you have something you can add it to your
and I'll have to investigate
that list of going for karaoke. Definitely. So I want to one last question. What is it people get wrong about you? Like when they meet you, maybe what's the one? What did they maybe get wrong?
That's such a good question. Gosh, what's funny? It's like that I always like pride myself on being like friendly and open and honest and like welcoming and comforting and things like that. And it's so funny that if I hear through the grapevine, like somebody thinks that I'm like very I'd say like threatening or scary or things of that nature. I'm like that. And it's been in professional and personal life. Like my husband told me the other day that one of his coworkers wives, when they met me, like didn't, was like very surprised at how like stern and non-welcoming I was. Like, wow, what did I say to her? But Anyway, so I think it must be a situational thing, but I think that has taken me off guard, and I've gotten some of that feedback before. So I'm like, what am I doing that, you know, is really not how I want to be portrayed?
Right. You think you maybe are a little guarded initially, like when you don't know people or the situation.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Yes.
No, and because, well, then also because
Yeah.
the thing is, you're impressive. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like here you are, you're very successful, beautiful,
Mhm.
have whatever, all these things going for you. And so then if you're guarded, then
Yeah.
if I'm meeting you, maybe I'm thinking, oh, she's this. And that's in my own head. Whereas
Right.
you're thinking, okay, I want to kind of be, get to know the situation. I don't know, like, because I think we think things that no one else is thinking sometimes. Do you ever feel like I've thought things
All
that,
the
oh my God,
time.
this person hates me. And then I talk to them a little bit and they're like, oh, I thought you were great, or whatever it may be.
All the time. I know.
That's my take on it because I don't find you stern. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I don't find myself that way either, but maybe, yeah, I think you're right. It's like situational, and you don't know what you're kind of putting out there, right? So
No, I agree. So anyway, we'll end it at that, Stern MK. And no, I really appreciate you joining and talking to me this week. This has been really wonderful. Thank you.
yeah, it's been great. Thanks so much, Lisa.
Good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And thank you for watching. As I always say, if you know someone or would like me to sort of pull back the curtain on a women marketer out there that impresses you, you want to hear more about, let me know who you'd like and I will do my best to get them. And again, thank you, MK, and
Yes.
enjoy. Have fun skiing.
Thank you.